Okay, so let's visualize the mirror field in front of us. We're surrounded by all sentient beings, all the soldiers who are dragged into battle without knowing what they're getting into, or with knowing what they're getting into, but not knowing about karma. So if we all want happiness, we all want to be free of suffering, what is it that keeps us apart, even though we have the same goals, the same yearning? What keeps us apart is the mind that grasps I as truly existent, that makes a separate I. There's me and there's others. And the me seems very solid, and the others are different, unrelated, also very solid. And of course, we think the I, that in fact is only merely designated on the aggregates, but it's our I. There's a real me here who needs to be protected, who wants happiness, who is more important than everybody else. And that I is the one that mind, not the I, but the mind that grasps that I. That is the troublemaker. So we've got to see how, as much as it feels like there's a real I, when we search for what that I is, we can't really pinpoint it. So let's say you get embarrassed. You're embarrassed when Buddha Bear wants to chant Namo Amitofu with you. Yeah. And you feel very self-conscious. Uh-oh. Buddha Bear is paying attention to me. Everybody else is paying attention to me. What are they going to think of me? And then you're embarrassed. So you're no longer a brown bear, you're a red bear. Yeah? So who is that I that is embarrassed? Is it your body? Your mind? Something separate from your body and mind? What are they going to think of me? They're all looking at me. Who's that me? seems like it's something really firm, solid, something mixed in with the aggregates. But when you try and locate it and point out an aggregate that is I, you can't really do that. So what would it be like to drop that image of a truly existent I? It's almost difficult to imagine because it's there all the time. So let's make a determination to keep tracking that I. See if we can discover what it is. Because if it exists the way it appears, we should be able to find it. If we can't find it, then maybe it doesn't exist that way. And we have to alter our perception, our conception, our view. So recognizing that this is the difficult point for all sentient beings, where all of the ignorance, anger, and attachment in the world comes from, where all the suffering in the world comes from. Let's make a determination to keep on investigating. How do I exist? Or what is the I and what isn't the I? Or do I exist as I appear to? And with compassion for ourselves and others, even though we don't know who that self is, then let's learn the Buddhist teachings and follow the path to freedom. So it's interesting to watch when you're just sitting there, and hearing about Buddha Bear. What's the sense of I? How does the I appear at that point? Yeah, there's not a real strong feeling of I at that point, is there? But as soon as Buddha Bear comes near you, what happens? What happens? Yeah? Does how you see yourself change when Buddha Bear comes near you? What's the feeling of the I at that point? It's quite different than when you're just sitting here and, kind of waiting for teachings or, watching what's going on. Okay. So look at, be aware of that. What the sense of I is when nothing's going on, and what's the sense of I when Buddha Bear comes near you? What's the sense of I if a real bear comes near you? Okay. Or even a dog. Yeah. Our neighbors have some pretty big dogs. And do you feel comfortable with those big dogs? Some of you, yes, some of you not. Okay. So watch how the sense of I changes in these different situations. Okay. So they gave me a break last week. No questions. This week, back with questions. Okay. So thank you for giving us the homework of doing the 2 death meditations. Who did the 2 death meditations? Okay. You only did 1. Okay. Did they have an effect on your mind? Yeah. What kind of effect?
I've got such a mental habit of spacing out after a while in my practice. When I sit for long periods of time, it kept me much more in my seat, kept me much more present in my mind. And when I would take off, I'd bring that back. And so it helps me to ground myself more in what I'm doing.
Yeah. To ground yourself. Mm-hmm.
I saw the attachment. I felt the attachment.
To what?
I was surprised because I felt the attachment to Adriana.
Uh-huh.
I was surprised about that, but it came up because I was doing it laying in bed, and I had migraine at that moment, and I just really went deep into it, so deep that I felt that attachment come up, and then I had to talk myself about how I got everything arranged and organized and taken care of, so everything is fine. And then I just started talking about how to leave my body. I mean, I started to do some analysis about, okay, what am I living here, the nature of my body. And so, it was helpful in that regard. And I just realized, I need to do more work on that because I don't want that to come up at the time of death.
Yeah. At the time of death, you don't want to be grasping onto people or to your body, or to your possessions, or to your own idea of who you think you are. Mm-hmm. So keep working at that. It's a very helpful meditation to bring stuff up for us to look at. So these kinds of meditations should be challenging in that way. Because if you're challenged and then you see, I've got to work on that. Whereas, yes, it's this lovely death and they're all, and I just float off. Then you're not really getting much out of the meditation. I'm not saying to make yourself afraid. Don't do that. You don't need to make yourself afraid, but just do it and see what comes up for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, it was interesting to see it took multiple times to get some sense of feeling because my resistance, it's not real, was so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting just to see how to actually get some feeling for it, to actually feel real and relevant and like it's going to happen. It took multiple times just to even get there.
Right.
It was so flat because it just didn't feel pertinent.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just a meditation. This is just an imagination. Yeah, I'm too young. Yeah. It's all those old decrepit nuns that are going to die, not me. You're in the process of becoming one of the old decrepit ones. Yeah? Uh-huh.
I was surprised by who I would not tell that I had a terminal illness.
What surprised you about that?
Well, it was my parents.
You didn't want to tell them?
No, I mean, I thought that I should not tell them because my mind would be calmer and, they would freak out and fly here and it would be much more difficult to let go.
Yeah. That was the same thing I had come up, when my parents were still alive. It was like, please, nobody tell them when I'm dying. Yeah.
The other thing was the importance of working on dislike. I feel for different people. Because if they were in the room when I was dying, then that dislike would come up. Because I can't control who's there when I die.
Yeah. You stole my marbles in 3rd grade. Yeah. And I'm still holding on to it. Yeah. That was a big discovery I had when I did Vajrasattva, was that I was still mad at my 2nd grade teacher because she didn't let me be in the class play. Yeah? Do you want to really die with anger at your 2nd grade teacher? It's like, that doesn't matter. So I hold on to it now. Because, and then we have some ridiculous reason. Okay, so there's some questions that arose from that. We die as we live, so daily practice is our best protection at the time of death. Very true. In addition, do you have any specific advice for how to prepare for or navigate illnesses that impair the clarity and control of the mind, such as dementia, Huntington's disease, and so forth? Well, my guess is, if you have strong realizations, maybe those diseases don't affect you so much, but I don't know. I mean, some of my teachers were very old, but they didn't suffer from dementia. Yeah. But what people tell me is that very often with dementia, somebody kind of adheres to this, reenacts the same behaviors that were very common during their life. Is that your experience? And so my friend who told me said that his mother was always very generous. So he would bring her some cookies or sweets or something when he went to visit her at the old folks' home. She kind of recognized him, but whatever he brought, she would take around and share it with all the other old folks there. And he said that's the way she was when she was alive. She shared things. So it seems to me that if we act now the way we would like to be, even if we have dementias or Alzheimer's or something, then, through the force of habit, that may come through. Then the dissolution, but it's scary to think of your mind being out to lunch like that, and when it's really bad, you don't realize you're out to lunch. So that's not scary at all, because you're out to lunch, you don't realize it, you're in your own world. The scary part is when your mind starts to go and you're aware enough to know that something's wrong. Yeah. My friend told me one time he couldn't find his address book, and then he opened the refrigerator to get something, and his address book was in the refrigerator. Yeah, anybody else done that? I was looking for my altar cloth earlier this week. It wasn't in the drawer where I usually keep it, but it was in the drawer where I keep the towels for the kitchen. How did it get there? Yeah, so that time when you realize that, that's the scary time, I think. Yeah. So what do you do then? Lots of Manjushri mantra. And then you just make a determination to be kind. Yeah. To just be as kind as you can, which means right now, why we have more control over our mind to make that determination to be as kind as we can. Develop that habit.
It's like strong mindfulness practices could also help, because things like that, even regular people do, and it's usually due to a lack of mindfulness. They're not present in their body.
So what do you mean by mindfulness practice? Being aware of what's going on
in the present.
Yeah.
In your body.
Yeah. So that's the actual mental factor of introspective awareness that monitors the body, speech, and mind. Yeah. And so knowing. But see, that's the one that lets you know that you're beginning to lose it. Yeah. But that's good. When you start to know you're beginning to lose it, then hopefully you can make some adjustments. And if you can't, you just relax and be kind. Yeah, what else are you going to do? But you should ask some other people too, some other practitioners, how they do it. Because I think of my friend who, the one we've been doing prayers for, who was in a coma so long, who now is gaining a little bit of more awareness, but he can't speak yet, but it seems like he can maybe understand something and show things, yes or no through his eyes. But, it'll be interesting to see when he comes, if he gets better, and then to ask him, what was it like in those states? I've talked to other people who've been in comas, and one person told me that she actually knew what was going on around her, but she couldn't say anything or interact with any of the people. Yeah, you're nodding your head. Do you have some experience with that?
Yes, I do. I was with both of my parents when they died, both my father and my mother. And my mother she didn't die. Well, she died, but she was in a coma, and she could hear. She was very upset because she didn't like people being in her kitchen. That's what she was upset about. But she was very aware when she was in the coma, what was happening.
But she could show that she was aware? I mean,
no, she couldn't show that she was aware.
How did you know she was upset then?
Because because she didn't die at that time. She was in the coma, and when she came out, she was able to explain her experience. And she was very aware of what people were saying, everything that was going on, and they were in her kitchen. But it was interesting because I want to go back on. My father was a very kind person, and yet, being at his death, he was very tormented. Yeah. And I have that image. Like, it was just like a hell realm. His whole body was in torment. My mom she was kind, but she was a rough person. She had a very peaceful death. So it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's hard to know what comes out. So another question, the dissolution of the various elements and consciousnesses is described as being a very scary process. We fear that we are going out of existence. So such prayers as Heart Spoon by Pabonka Rinpoche also talk about some of the 8 internal visions as being scary. Okay, so let me read you from Pabonka. Okay. The terrors of the 4 fearful enemies descending upon you are going to come. The appearance of being, so these are the 4 elements absorbing. The appearance of being trapped under a mountain of packed rock and rubble and buried beneath a furious avalanche of earth. What to do? So that's the earth element absorbing. The appearance of being set adrift on the surface of a vast sea and carried away by violent swirling waves. What to do? That's the water element absorbing. and carried away by violence, the experience of your heart and ears being split open by the sizzling and crackling sounds of a fiery conflagration. What to do? The fire element absorbing. The fearful experience of being enveloped and swept away by the swirling dark winds of the end of the eon. What to do? That's the wind element. Okay. So when we meditate on the 8 disillusions, should we be imagining them as scary and terrifying to work on our fear? I have not seen such an instruction before. Okay, so I haven't seen, an instruction to meditate on it being scary. Yeah. However, they do talk about these kind of, you have a physical reaction, when the earth element is absorbing, the body feels very heavy, like it's sinking into the earth. When the water element is absorbing, there can be a feeling of dryness, because the fire element is coming on strong. So there could be, these kind of feelings arising in the body, or there could be, because when the images, they talk about the image, the first one being like the mirage shimmering, the earth element is going, the water element is becoming prominent. The second one of the water element subsiding, the fire element coming, so smoke, a vision of smoke. Yeah. So, whether the mind reacts to those with fear, I think it's possible, I think if I were in a room filled with smoke, there would be fear. Yeah. So it's not that you sit there and get yourself, I'm going to make myself afraid so I can have a real experience of it. It's not like that. But, imagine, you were in that environment and, what might it be like and how can you keep your mind present? And if your mind started to react because of the various sensations in the body, how are you going to get, relax your mind again? And this is related very much to to what Venerable Huiming gave us as our gift yesterday, when we feel dread and fear, our usual reaction is to flee. And he was quoting this sutra with the Buddha of, you sit there or stand or lie down, whatever position you're in when this is happening, and you work with your mind. Okay. So it's, you don't sit there and like, okay, I'm imagining being terrified. That doesn't work. You just think. Well, and also just look at how you react now to different sensations in your body. Yeah, you have a stomach ache, and then is it all of a sudden, oh, maybe I have stomach cancer? Yeah. And that thought comes in the mind, and then your stomach hurts even more. And then you say, should I go to the doctor? No, it's just a stomach ache. It's nothing. But in the back of your mind, it could be stomach cancer. I better go. I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want to know what it is. But if you know what it is, it can be treatable. Yes, but I don't really want to feel scared. If they tell me I have cancer, then I feel scared. I just want to just live my life and not think about having cancer at all. And then what? So just watch how your mind reacts to these things. Yeah, and watch the kind of grasping there is. And then, as in the sutra that he sent us, to be able to sit there and, okay, there's the feeling of dread or there's the feeling of fear. And, can you sit there and just observe that feeling? Do you need to apply an antidote? There's fear. So when I feel fear, I do the taking and giving meditation. Yeah, I find that's very helpful when I feel afraid. Okay, do the taking and giving. Because then it's like, okay, I'm afraid. I might as well take on the fear of everybody else. Yeah. And so that helps the mind. Or, I'm just going to sit there and feel the sensation. And so just take it into your practice and see how you can work with it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like I said, don't sit there and try and make yourself afraid. Just do the visualization, see what comes up, and and especially in your daily life, it's much easier. Sitting there meditating, I'm going to feel afraid so I can work with it. No, just think about when the feeling of fear that comes when you're riding in a car and somebody, is coming on and they're not getting out of the lane, or the fear that you feel when somebody says, you didn't put the spatula in the right place. I was like, oh no, I did something wrong. Yeah, so just watch in daily life. Okay, then there was a whole book written about difficulties in visualization. Okay, that I think might be good to kind of discuss a little bit here. So the problem is visualizing something Vajrasattva above your head rather than in front of you. Because it seems like, okay, Vajrasattva's in front of me. I can put a statue there. I can close my eyes. I can see Vajrasattva. Okay? But if I put a statue on my head, then to visualize Vajrasattva, I have to roll my eyes back in my socket, and that gives me a headache. Yeah? That's what I did, when I first think, Vajrasattva's on my head. Yeah. Or I think of it here and my eyes are here, or there's a camera here and I look up and then all I see is the bottom of Vajrasattva's lotus. Yeah. Or maybe his lotus isn't even there and I see his butt. Excuse me, Vajrasattva. I'm getting a little bit too personal. Okay, so visualization does not mean you're seeing with your eyes. It's called visualization, but what it means is imagine. Okay, so it's not like seeing with your eyes. So don't think of it as a camera taking a picture, like there's the camera outside taking a picture of me with Vajrasattva on my head. So all of a sudden I'm out there, but I'm still here. And, which me has Vajrasattva on their head? I mean, we get so tangled up with these things. Okay, so throw out the camera, throw out the eyeballs. Okay, it's not either of those. Yeah, it's feeling like you are in the presence of holy beings. Okay? So you want to have the feeling that you're in the presence of holy beings. Yeah. And if you have that feeling, then you're not sitting there, okay, where's Vajrasattva? Okay, there he is. Where's his bell? Where's his Vajra? Does he have long hair or short hair? Yeah. How down on his knee is he holding his bell? Yeah. What if he wants to stretch? Don't try and put it into your idea of what visualization is or what your idea of seeing something is. Okay? Because I think part of the difficulty is we're trying to fit it into our conceptualization of something. So somebody wrote here, teaching, explaining meditation and the Dharma is much more difficult than physics, where things can be drawn or written down in equations. Okay? So if you're used to thinking of things as being able to be drawn in a linear process or written out in an equation, and then you're taking Vajrasattva, and when it says visualize or imagine Vajrasattva, you're putting it into a mind that conceptualizes things like that. And it's like putting a square peg into a round hole. Okay? So we have to, we have all these conceptual habits that we aren't even aware we have until we hit something like this, and then we can't make it happen. Okay? Now, granted, some people have an easier time with spatial relationships or whatever. I remember taking tests, when they gave you the tests every year. Yeah. And they would show you pictures of a glove like this, and then the glove like this, and the glove like this, and, like this. And you're supposed to match up which gloves are upside down and, and like that. And some people can look at these drawings and like, oh, this is a left-hand glove, this is a right-hand glove. They get it like this. Other people look at the drawings and it's like, okay, the drawing looks like that. They got to move their hand to get it into that position. Yeah. And meanwhile, the person who can easily visualize it, they're on question 94. And you're sitting there, like, the thumb is on which side? Here, but is the palm down or up? Or, So in spatial relationships, some people have different talents and not, but it's like every kind of skill, the more you do it, you can develop it. Yeah. So we can't just say, I'm not so, I'm hopeless at spatial relationships. So, forget it. It's like, that is harder for me. And so I have to play with it a little bit more. Okay. And so you play with it and you try and do that. At first, Vajrasattva, but yet, when you finally get your eyeballs down into your eyes, you're not rolling them back, then it seems like, okay, I can visualize Vajrasattva, but he's facing this way. And we're supposed to face him this way. Yeah, but he's going backwards, looking at, oh, who's sitting in back of me? Vajrasattva's looking at you. Did you know that? Yeah. But where's that nectar? Is it going into the person in back of me who Vajrasattva's looking at, or is it going into me? Well, it's coming down into me, but it's splattering all over my head. I can't get it into my body. Have you ever had that? Where you can't get the nectar in your body and it's just like rolling out all over the floor. And it's like, oh, I'm sure glad this is a visualization. Otherwise, I'm going to have a mess to clean up here. Okay. So you see, when that happens, it's like, oh, what's the problem there? It's I'm thinking of my body as something concrete. So if my body's concrete, then of course the nectar can't get in because there's concrete, not just around my body, but my whole body is made of concrete. And sometimes it seems like that way to us, and so no nectar can get in. Yeah. So then you have to play a little bit with trying to visualize your body as hollow so that the nectar can get in. Yeah. So it's these kinds of things where you play with it. Yeah. And you just, it shows you in many ways, like how you're so used to thinking that another way of imagining things seems like you just can't do it. You cannot turn that glove like this and recognize it as a right hand, But if you practice slowly, okay? And so especially here, since the important thing when you're doing the visualization is not seeing Vajrasattva with your eyes. Okay, there he is. What color are his scarves? Oh, yeah, light blue and yellow. Yeah, like the Ukrainian flag. Oh, no, I shouldn't be visualizing Ukraine. What color are his celestial silks? Yeah. One meditation session, they have polka dots. Next meditation session, there's stripes. Next meditation session, then is Vajrasattva changing clothes between sessions? Look at what your mind does. Okay? It's really quite interesting, isn't it? And then to think that, this is how our mind projects on the people around us too. Yeah? We're always projecting, yeah? And forming opinions. Yeah? Oh, celestial silks. Oh, they're made out of silk, those poor silkworms. Really, this is not environmentally so good. They shouldn't be silk. Why do the Tibetans have silk katas? They're supposed to be people who cherish life. Why all the silk katas? And silk brocade. Is brocade really made out of silk? It's so stiff. How could it be made out of silk? Yeah. How do they make silk anyway? Do they take one thing and pull it out? And your mind is off and running, isn't it? Yeah? So just, what would it be? You saw yesterday His Holiness sitting on the throne, okay? Could you get any feeling of like you're there and what it would feel like to sit there with His Holiness in front of you? Was there some feeling like that? You just see Him and you feel joyful. Yeah? How are you going to feel when you're with a holy being? I'm sitting in front of His Holiness. What's He going to think of me? I'm going to do something wrong. Yeah, there's all this etiquette. Yeah, I'm going to do something wrong. I made a really big boo-boo once. Yeah, really big boo-boo. So I had led a retreat of some sort, and then we asked people to we asked His Holiness if the people doing the retreat could have an audience with him, and he said yes. So, or maybe I came with a group of Singaporeans. Anyway, I was with a group, but I was leading the group. So we come in, and the way His Holiness's thing is the door is here, the altar's there, and then he has a seat here, and then there's usually a big couch, and then some other chairs back here. Once in a while, there may be another chair here and some other chairs in the back. Okay, so I came in, and I came, they told, because he greets everybody one by one. So he greeted me. So then I'm walking over here, and I'm standing, the sofa's kind of long. So I'm standing kind of, in the middle of the sofa, because you wait until His Holiness sits down before you sit down. Okay. And I'm waiting there. And then the attendants were saying, no, go further, go further, go further. And, so I inched up and go further than further and sit down, because all these people are coming in. So I just went further and further, and I went to the last chair in the row, and I sat down. And then His Holiness finishes greeting everybody, and he goes to sit down. He says, I think you're in my chair. I was like, oh, And then you see, how do you react? Yeah, you just made a big boo-boo. What do you react? Do you put your hide, Do you just crawl under the sofa? Or do you laugh at yourself? Yeah. Do you laugh at yourself and what you did and say, oops, sorry? Yeah. Okay. So, all these kinds of things, to see how we work with our mind and see how our conceptualization, because we're conceptualizing all the time, and we're not even realizing it because we're so used to thinking of things fitting in this pattern. Yeah. Okay. I said, remember, the pickpocket sees pockets. Yeah. The pickpocket doesn't see the colors of the celestial silks. The pickpocket sees the pockets in the celestial silks. Yeah. Somebody who's a fashion designer sees the colors of the celestial silks. They don't see the pockets. Somebody who's an environmentalist, goes off on this big thing but it's silk and, it's destroying lives. And, I thought they were Buddhist, and they go off on that. And it's, by how we're habituated with conceptualizing things. Okay? So you just relax and, there you are in the presence of Vajrasattva, who is your friend, who is not going to judge you, who is not going to say, I'm supposed to be facing the other direction on your head, or His Holiness loves telling the story of one person who came to him and said, I was trying to visualize the deity on my head, but I'm bald, and he kept falling off. Yeah. Yeah. Poor Vajrasattva's falling off my head. And somebody else came in and said to His Holiness, I'm trying to visualize Vajrasattva on my head, but the best I could do was I was sitting on Vajrasattva's head. Yeah. So this is, we all go through this. So just kind of chill out. It doesn't mean you have to get all the details of what something is looking like. And when you are, developing if you're using it, Vajrasattva, as your object to develop serenity, I recommend putting Vajrasattva in front of you instead of on top of your head. Yeah. Yeah. And it's fine. He can sit in front of you. Yeah. And he can, send the nectar going this way. But the idea of why Vajrasattva is on your head is Vajrasattva is an extension of you, not something separate, and you're in direct contact, so that nectar just comes straight down into your heart, okay, and fills your whole body. So not just your heart, but your whole body, okay? So, and again, it's not this thing of, okay, how fast is the nectar coming down? Is it like, whoosh, or is it like drip, 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 drip? Yeah. Yeah, just, relax. Yeah. If it comes down in one meditation session one way, another meditation session another way, that's okay.
So I wanted to share how I've changed doing visualizations.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was very exact. It had to be perfect. And I noticed I was really straining my eye muscles.
Yep.
But that was producing a lot of tension.
Yep.
And so now I feel like I'm using a different part of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more like when I'm dreaming or when images just kind of arise naturally. And I feel like it's a very different faculty of the brain or of the mind that's in play. And there's also more imagination and openness.
Yeah.
You sort of let these things emerge. You don't control the process completely.
Yeah.
And in that way, you can get deeper insights into what's going on inside of you.
Yeah. Whereas if you're, I've got to do it perfect, there it is. They said he should be this big. Oh, that's too big. Yeah. Yeah. For me, Vajrasattva being that big is too big. I like Vajrasattva. But they said to make it that big. Oh no, I'm doing it wrong. Vajrasattva, can you be smaller? Oh no, I'm not following instructions. I'm not getting this right. This is a disaster. Yeah. Look at how your mind is so exacting of yourself. Yeah. Why can't Vajrasattva be smaller? Yeah. Okay, he's smaller. Now, exactly how tall is he? Now, when you're imagining Vajrasattva on your head, can you measure how big that Vajrasattva on your head is? Can you measure that? No. Yeah. If you're sitting there visualizing Vajrasattva, can you take a ruler and measure how big that Vajrasattva is? I can't. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter. No, I'm in the presence. And this is another thing that's difficult about the visualization, is we can never think of being in the presence of somebody who is not judging us, of somebody who is looking at us with compassion. Yeah. And you may look, you've been doing the refuge visualization for years, even visualizing in front. Yeah. But are the Buddha, Tsongkhapa, any of them, are they looking at you with compassion? Or are you looking at them, authority figures? Yeah, they're looking at me like, you say you're taking refuge in me. What's really going on in your mind? I don't believe you really have refuge. You don't know anything. Are they looking at you that way? Can you imagine somebody looking at you with compassion? What does it look like, for somebody, or what does it feel like to imagine somebody looking at you with compassion. Can you even imagine what that feels like? Can we let that into our heart of what it feels like for somebody to look at us without judgment, with total understanding, and really caring about us, and they don't care about how we perform or what we look like or what our status is or how high we score on the test. Yeah. None of that matters to the Buddhas. They just look at us with kindness. Can we let that into our heart?
After spending one whole Vajrasattva retreat where Vajrasattva was the embodiment of my self-critical mind, and that's why it took so long. I was just fighting the whole way. And what I found really helpful was to come back to how you've written the meditation on the Buddha in Pearl of Wisdom 1. I spent a lot of time just on, think of the qualities of infinite love, compassion, wisdom. What is it like to have a mind like that? I spent so much time with that. And then imagine those qualities are now physically embodied. Wow. That really helped me. But it took a long time of just try and get that feeling. Then I stopped being like, it must be exact or perfect. It's like, how kind is the Buddha? They express in so many ways. If you can't read, you can connect with compassion like this, in this kind of symbology.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally changed my relationship. So I highly recommend going to page 19 of the Blue Book. It really helped me. Just taking my time with those 2 paragraphs.
Yeah. Yeah. And really taking apart that mind that assumes that everybody who looks at us is judging us about one thing or another. Yeah? How you look, how you score, and to get our minds to take that away and instead imagine those qualities being embodied in a physical way. Yeah. So it takes some work. And you have to relax. Yeah. But when you're trying to be perfect, it's difficult to relax. Yeah? Isn't it? Okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? Okay. So laugh at yourself. You've got to learn to laugh at yourself. How just to learn to relax our mind. Yeah. And how difficult that is, because we aren't even aware so often of how uptight we are and how we want to put everything into boxes. But living in community will make you change from that, okay? Because you keep on knocking. My mother used to say, don't knock your head against the wall. Well, when you live in community, you keep knocking your head against the wall. What is that wall doing there? And then, the schedule should be like this. Why is it changing? Like the other day, all of a sudden, 2 days ago, what we're doing on Thursday afternoon, we have to do on Wednesday afternoon. But I was planning my Wednesday afternoon was like this. I'm not ready for doing that and giving the feedback. I'm not ready for accepting the feedback. I don't have it all written down, everything I'm going to say. And anyway, I didn't want to do it then. And why did they change the schedule anyway? All these people who are always saying, don't change the schedule, and then they change it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is what all of us go through. living here, because you have your plan for the day, and then things change. And you have your thought for the way things are supposed to be done, and they aren't done that way.
One of the things that's been more apparent as the years go on is that when I find myself physically and emotionally exhausted, and I look at the amount of proliferating that goes on when I sit down, it looks like I'm sitting doing nothing or meditating, that I didn't know the extent of how the conceptual mind exhausts oneself.
Yeah.
You know, because you start putting together your courtroom, you start putting together your fantasies, you start putting together your arguments, and you leave the hall, and it's like, I gotta go back. I'm exhausted. So I've been reading His Holiness's Clarity Insight book from many years ago, and he's got a little paragraph there that says, try to just give your mind a rest. To just let the thoughts, slow them down. Give your mind a break. And how hard it is to just stop the proliferating.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't serve the well-being internally or externally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been much more aware this winter and being able to counteract it before it gets going.
Yeah.
And I can see how it impacts my energy and my moods and how I live here. Is that really, it becomes just this veil of how I just can't get any clarity because I'm talking to myself so much in the middle of my practice, setting up all sorts of things.
Yeah. And sometimes you move your mouth when you're thinking. Yeah. Have you noticed she does that? Yeah.
I talk to myself, and that's what you're seeing.
Yeah. So, okay. So all of this is how practice is helping us. Practice is working on all these things. Practice doesn't give us a list of, you're going to find yourself, thinking of jingles, commercial jingles that you heard when you were a kid. So be aware of that. You're going to find yourself thinking about your secretary. You're going to find yourself talking to yourself. You're going to find yourself criticized. It doesn't give, you're going to find yourself, getting confused about the colors of the robes. And, oh no, as Vajrasattva's celestial silks, they fall down as much as my chogu falls down. Is Vajrasattva always going like this? Yeah, next time I visualize it, it's like this. And, oh, yeah. Okay, you and I at the same time, Vajrasattva, come on. Oh, Vajrasattva. Oh, So, they don't tell you. It isn't all spelled out, everything that you're going to be made aware of. Okay. It'd be nice if it was all spelled out. So when things happen, oh yeah, that's normal, It's number 73A that, Vajrasattva's sliding off my head. And it's... You have to get him right up, Do you have that problem? Does he slide off to this side? This side, back, front? Yeah. Or no, I have hair. He gets stuck on my hair. Oh no, Vajrasattva's stuck. That's why they said to visualize him 4 fingers width, or is it 4 inches? 4 fingers? 4 inches, about the same. No, maybe inches. How high? Where is he? But he's floating in space. I can't have Vajrasattva floating in space.
That happens to me more frequently is after I don't know how many mantras or malas, I realize I've been reciting the wrong mantra. And I don't remember for how long I've been doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Who else has that happened to? Yeah. So, yeah. So it just, this is what purification is about. You have to see the dirt, and some of it isn't even dirt. It's just fluff, but it's in the way. Yeah. And so we have to see it in order to, cleanse it. Okay, so we better at least, it's time to stop already. Aging or death? Okay, we did something from the text. Oh, more questions, okay.
What are we trying to develop during visualization versus chanting mantra versus calm abiding meditation versus absorption? What are the major differences?
Between when we visualize for serenity, when we visualize for what? What are the other ones?
Visualization versus chanting mantra versus calm abiding meditation versus absorption. What are the major differences?
Well, when you're chanting the mantra, you see, this whole thing is very psychologically useful, because what are we doing all day? We're imagining things all day, and we're talking to ourselves all day. Okay? So instead of just imagining, all your fantasies about this and that, or you imagine, you're taking that same faculty of imagination and you're imagining, learning how to speak English properly, imagining Vajrasattva and being purified. We have this tendency to blah, blah all the time, even to ourselves. We take that and we flip it into chanting mantra. Okay? So it's taking habitual things that we have that we usually use in a very worldly way, and instead steering them towards remembering the Buddha. Okay. How are they different? You can see, when you're developing calm abiding, or I translate it as serenity meditation, you're trying to be single pointed on what your object of meditation is. So at the beginning, this is what Geshe Thubten is teaching, Geshe Tupke is teaching, it's written in volume 4, Following the Footsteps of the Buddha. And Genlam Rinpa also has a very good book called something. Okay, but you're visualizing something, and then here with serenity or calm abiding, you're putting your mind on that and developing concentration. Of course, your mind's going to stray and go to other things, and you're going to get drowsy. That's why there's all the instructions of what to do if you get drowsy, what to do if you start wandering to an object of attachment, what to do if you're just plain old distraction. All of that comes up. And so, that's the purpose for your meditation. Now, when that person said absorption, I'm not quite sure what they're talking about. We talk about meditative absorption, okay, which can be any level of serenity, and it could be a dhyana, or it could be a formless realm absorption, okay. And then what was the other one? There was another one. So visualization. Yeah, what I said, like chanting, taking something you usually do normally that often we're not even aware of. Yeah, we're not even aware of how much we visualize. So people hear visualize and they say, I can't visualize. Of course we can. If I say, think of your mom, okay, do you have an image of what your mom looks like? Your mom could have been dead for decades. Yeah. Do you have an image? Are you seeing something with your eyes? Do you know exactly what hairdo she has? You know? Oh, you have some image of your mom. And that's visualization. Okay? So using that ability to, instead of visualizing the things that incite ignorance, anger, and attachment, to visualize, a Buddha who is full of tolerance and love and compassion and wisdom. And, we're sitting in that presence, and then that Buddha dissolves into us, and we think, oh, we imagine having those same qualities. What would it feel like to be somebody who doesn't judge others? Yeah. Imagine, Vajrasattva dissolved into me. He doesn't judge anybody. What would it feel like for me not to have the opinion factory going all the time, judging people? To look at people just with kind eyes, with compassion. What would that feel like? Yeah. And then you imagine feeling that way. And then that's how it begins to change you. Mm-hmm. In a way, it's like, what we did as kids. When we were kids, we imagined being all sorts of things, didn't we? And it was very much encouraged. That was how you became creative. Yeah, imagine being this, imagine being that. And we're very used to imagining things as kids. So here we're training that imagination, that verbalization, in a direction that's going to be useful to us. Okay? So with that, we will close this evening. We read Aging and Death. And by next week, when we will again try to go through this section, do you see how we're procrastinating every Friday night? We can't seem to get through Aging and Death. It's like we're going to put it off for another week. Okay, but in that week, we are aging and death is approaching. So